The sun was setting on a cool autumn evening when everything changed. I had just finished my speech at the student government elections. I was confident. I felt unbeatable. Then out of nowhere, rumors started to spread. Whispers in the hallways, in the cafeteria, on social media. Emma, the one person I trusted more than anyone, was at the center of it all. I remember walking into the student union the day after the rumors started. The air felt thick, like everyone was staring at me. I heard fragments of conversations, people muttering, "Did you hear Paige? She's hiding something? She can't even handle being president." The worst part. The person spreading these lies, the one who made it all seem so believable, was my best friend Emma. She told people I was unfit to lead, that I was hiding a secret about my personal life. And worse, she hinted that I might have been corrupt. All lies, every single word. And yet by the time I tried to clear my name, the damage had already been done. I lost the election. I lost everything. I tried to move on. I told myself I would get over it. But it didn't feel right. Every time I saw Emma, I felt a stabbing pain in my chest. How could she do that to me? How could she betray me like that? She was my closest friend. We were supposed to have each other's backs. The emotional turmoil I felt was unbearable. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly alone. For months, I walked around with this burning resentment inside me. The anger would boil over, but I kept it inside. I had to keep it together. I had to look strong. But every time I saw her, I couldn't help but feel that sharp pang of betrayal all over again. Fast forward to today. I'm standing in front of my old college thinking about how much I've changed. I'm no longer that girl, naive, trusting, ready to give her all. I've spent these years building my career, learning how to protect myself, to never let anyone get too close again. But now it's reunion time. I thought I had let go of everything, but as soon as I walked through the doors, I saw Emma. She hasn't changed. She's still the same person, smiling, pretending everything is fine. And that's when I realized I'm not done with this yet. The alumni board president is up for election, and suddenly everything clicks. This is my chance to get back at Emma, to expose her for who she truly is. This is my chance to finally get the respect and power I deserve. But there's one problem: I can't just run for president. I need to find a way to take her down, to make sure she doesn't get in my way. And that means playing the game in ways I've never imagined before. After that moment, after seeing Emma standing there smiling as if nothing ever happened, I knew what I had to do. I could feel the anger rising inside me again. I had to fight back. I couldn't let her get away with it. Not after everything she took from me. But this time, I was going to play smarter. The alumni board president election, it was the perfect opportunity. I wasn't just running for a title. I was running to take back my power, to expose Emma for who she really was. But it wouldn't be easy. She had her own supporters, her own loyal following, and she wasn't about to let go of what she thought was hers. So I started with the basics. I needed to create a strategy that would not only get me elected, but also make Emma's downfall inevitable. I began by reconnecting with old friends, people who had been there for me back in the day, the ones who remembered me as the confident leader, the one who always had their back. I needed their support, but most importantly, I needed to make sure they were still angry at what Emma did to me. I couldn't do this alone. The first step was simple research. I dug into Emma's life. She had always been the golden girl, the one everyone trusted. But I knew she wasn't perfect. There had to be something, some crack in the facade. I started looking into her past, her college records, even her social media. It didn't take long before I found a small but crucial detail. Emma had been involved in a minor scandal during her sophomore year, something she'd managed to sweep under the rug with the help of her parents. It was nothing major, but it was enough. Enough to tarnish her reputation, enough to bring her down when people started asking questions. I felt a surge of satisfaction. This was my leverage. I wasn't going to let her slide by this time. The pieces were falling into place. But then as I started putting my plan into motion, I ran into obstacles. Emma's influence was stronger than I expected. She had allies everywhere, people who owed her favors, people who admired her. She had friends who would do anything to keep her in power. Every step I took forward, I felt like I was being pulled 2 steps back. One of her most loyal supporters was Jake, an old friend from college, who'd been one of the key figures in spreading the rumors about me. He was the one who had fueled the lies, making them sound more believable than they were. He was dangerous, and I knew he wouldn't let me take Emma down without a fight. But I couldn't back down. Not now. The first real confrontation happened at a campaign meeting. I was there with my supporters laying out my plans for the alumni board. And then out of nowhere, Emma walked in. She looked at me, and there was that same smug look on her face, the one that made me question my worth for so long. "Paige," she said with that syrupy, sweet tone I'd always hated, "I didn't expect you to run for president. I thought you'd be too busy playing the victim." I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the anger, the resentment, but I didn't let it show. Not this time. I stood up straighter, smiled, and said, "I'm not playing the victim anymore, Emma. I'm done with that. This time it's my turn." The tension in the room was palpable. People were watching, waiting for one of us to break. But I held my ground. I wasn't going to let her push me around again. The meeting ended, but the war had just begun. I knew Emma wouldn't back down without a fight. But what I didn't expect was that she would play dirty. I started getting anonymous messages, threats, warnings to drop out of the race. Someone was trying to intimidate me. But who? The messages started coming in a few days after the campaign meeting. At first, I thought it was just someone trying to scare me. Maybe one of Emma's followers who didn't like the idea of me running for president. But the messages kept coming. Anonymous emails, texts, even direct messages on social media. They were all saying the same thing: step down or else. You don't want to find out what happens if you don't. At first, I tried to ignore them, but as I read each one, a knot formed in my stomach. This wasn't just some prank. Someone wanted me out of the race. Someone was trying to intimidate me to make me back down. But I couldn't. Not after everything. I had to show them I was stronger than they thought. I wasn't going to let these threats stop me. In fact, they made me more determined. But then I noticed something. It wasn't just the anonymous threats that were standing in my way, it was Emma's entire network. She was pulling strings behind the scenes, using her influence to get people to work against me. Jake, as expected, was involved. He was everywhere, at every event, at every gathering, spreading rumors, making sure that no one would support me. Even some of my old friends, the ones I thought had my back, were starting to distance themselves. But there was one person who hadn't turned on me yet, Mia. She was one of the few who still believed in me. Mia had always been there for me in the past, and I knew I could count on her now. I had to. She was the only one who could help me take down Emma and her web of lies. I knew I needed more than just a few rumors to take Emma down. I needed something concrete, something that would destroy her reputation for good. So I kept digging. I contacted old professors, former classmates, and even people who worked with Emma during her time at the university. I needed to find out everything I could about her past, her secrets, her mistakes. And then one night, I found something, a piece of information so damning I almost couldn't believe it. Emma had been caught cheating during a major exam in her sophomore year. It wasn't public knowledge. She had covered it up by threatening a classmate who had witnessed it. The classmate had been too afraid to speak out, and Emma had managed to avoid any punishment. But now I had proof. I had her confession on tape. The next morning, I met with Mia. She was worried. She could see the toll this was taking on me, the pressure, the threats. She could tell I was getting close to something big, but she was also afraid. "Paige, be careful. If you go too far with this, it could destroy both of you. It's not just about the election anymore. It's personal." I knew Mia was right. This was no longer just about winning a title. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my power. But I wasn't sure how far I was willing to go. The line between justice and revenge had blurred, and I wasn't sure where to draw it. But one thing was clear: Emma wasn't getting away with this. I wasn't going to let her win. That night, as I sat in front of my computer, I realized that I had a choice to make. I could expose Emma's secret and risk losing everything, my integrity, my future, or I could play it safe and let her get away with it. I knew what I had to do, but the question was, would I be able to live with the consequences? I sat there for what felt like hours staring at the screen. The weight of the decision on my shoulders was almost too much to bear. I had Emma's confession, the proof I needed to destroy her. I had the power to expose her, but what would that cost me? My integrity, my relationships, the life I had worked so hard to build. But then I remembered everything she had taken from me. The years of trust I had given her, the friendship, the election I lost because of her lies. I wasn't going to let her win, not this time. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and dialed Mia's number. "Mia," it's time, I said when she picked up. "We're going to expose her." Mia hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "Are you sure, Paige? Once you do this, there's no going back. I've already lost everything," once I replied, my voice steady. "I'm not afraid to lose it again if it means bringing her down." That night, I set everything up. I gathered the evidence, the recordings, the messages, the documents that proved Emma's cheating scandal, and the lies she spread about me. I made sure everything was airtight. If I was going to take her down, I was going to do it right. I had one last conversation with Mia before sending the evidence out. "Once this goes public, it's out of our hands," Mia warned. "Are you ready for the fallout?" "I'm ready," I said. "This ends now." I hit send. The evidence was out there. The world would see Emma for what she truly was, a liar, a manipulator, a fraud. The response was immediate. Social media exploded. People began sharing the story, some outraged, others in disbelief. Messages started flooding in from old classmates' friends, even strangers, all shocked by the truth. Some supported me while others questioned my motives. But one thing was clear: Emma's reputation was shattered. The fallout came quicker than I expected. Emma's supporters turned on her. The alumni board revoked her position, and she was forced to step down. Her friends, the ones who had once backed her so loyally, distanced themselves. The social media storm was relentless, and it seemed like everyone was talking about the scandal. But it wasn't just Emma who suffered. The public backlash against me was equally fierce. People began questioning my morals. Was I any better than Emma for exposing her in such a brutal way? Had I crossed a line? I couldn't deny that part of me wondered if I had. But then I remembered why I did it. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it for justice. I had to remind myself that I was doing this to take back control of my life. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the one in charge, and that's how I wanted to stay. It was a few days later when Emma showed up at my door. She looked different. She wasn't the confident, smiling person I had known in college. She was broken, defeated. For the first time, I saw the real Emma, the one who had been hiding behind her lies all along. "Paige," she said, her voice trembling, "you didn't have to do this. I never meant to hurt you." "Really?" I said, crossing my arms. "You didn't mean to hurt me. You spread rumors about me, ruined my reputation, and stole everything I worked for." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was jealous. I didn't want you to have all the attention. I thought if I could bring you down, I could have the spotlight." I looked at her, feeling a mix of pity and anger. "You could have just talked to me, Emma, but instead you destroyed everything. I'm not sorry for what I did. You needed to be exposed." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered everything she had done to me. "This is where we part ways," I said. "You're not the person I thought you were, and I'm not the person you can manipulate anymore." Emma turned and walked away, leaving me standing there alone. I had exposed her, and it felt like a victory. But there was still a part of me that wondered, did I go too far? Was it worth it? And what did this mean for my future? The days after Emma left were a blur. The media storm had died down, but the aftermath lingered. I had exposed her for who she really was, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. But at the same time, something gnawed at me. Was this really the victory I had imagined? Was it worth it? I couldn't help but wonder if I'd gone too far. The whispers and judgments from my peers stung, even though I knew what I did was justified. Some said I had taken things too personally. Others said I had played dirty. But in the end, I knew I had to make a choice. I wasn't going to let Emma's lies define me, and I wasn't going to sit back and let her destroy my life. Mia checked in on me every day, making sure I was holding up. "You did what you had to do," she'd remind me, though. I could hear the concern in her voice. "But you need to focus on your future now. This is just the beginning." But it was hard. It was hard to move on when you've exposed someone you once called a friend. And that feeling stayed with me, weighing on my chest. Every time I looked at my phone or walked into a room, I was reminded of the choice I had made. Then came the alumni election. The votes were counted, and to my surprise, I had won. I had secured the position of alumni board president. It wasn't just a political win, it felt like redemption. But winning didn't come without its challenges. People were still whispering, still questioning my morals. Some alumni didn't want to work with me because of the way I had handled things with Emma. Others were just unsure, wondering if I was truly the right person for the job. I spent the first few weeks as president trying to prove myself, to show that I was more than just a woman who had exposed a scandal. I started putting together programs that I believed could make a difference for the alumni community. It was important to me to show that I was capable, that I had value beyond the drama of the past. It wasn't easy, but I pushed through. Every success, every small victory made me feel like I was reclaiming the person I had been before Emma's betrayal. One afternoon, a surprise visitor showed up at my office. It was Jake. He had heard about my win and wanted to talk. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I agreed to meet him. He had always been one of Emma's closest allies, and after everything, I wasn't sure where he stood. "Paige," he said as he walked in, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I just wanted to say, I didn't know how things would turn out. I didn't know Emma had gone that far. I was wrong to support her." I was quiet for a moment. "You were wrong to help her tear me down, Jake. But I'm not the same person anymore." I know he said, his voice filled with regret. "And I'm sorry for everything. I wanted to make sure you knew that." There was a part of me that wanted to yell at him to make him feel the same pain I had felt, but I didn't. Instead, I looked him in the eyes and said, "Thank you. But this isn't about you anymore. This is my time." Jake nodded, understanding. "I get it. I just wanted to make things right." As he left, I couldn't help but feel that in some small way, this was the closure I had needed. I didn't need Jake's apology. I had already forgiven myself. As time went on, the whispers about my past began to fade. Emma's name slowly disappeared from conversation, and the alumni board began to focus on more important matters. I had made my mark, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. But most importantly, I had learned something valuable through all of this. I had learned how strong I was. I had learned that no matter what, I would never let anyone dictate my worth again. I walked across the campus one last time, the memories flooding back. The triumphs, the betrayals, the heartbreak. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I was stronger. I was in control. And this was just the beginning of my story. As I walked away from the campus, I looked back one last time. A new chapter had begun, but I knew that this wasn't the end. Life would always throw obstacles my way, but I was ready. I had faced the worst and come out on top, and no matter what came next, I knew I could handle it. Being alumni board president wasn't what I expected. It was harder, more complicated than I'd imagined. Meetings, decisions, expectations. It felt like every move I made was being watched and judged. Some people were still hesitant to trust me, unsure if I could lead beyond the scandal. But I was determined. I reminded myself why I ran in the first place, not just to defeat Emma, but to prove to myself and everyone else that I was capable, strong, and deserving. I started initiating programs to help alumni network professional development workshops and mentorships for current students. Slowly, I began earning respect again. Just when I thought the storm had settled, Emma tried to make a comeback. She attempted to sway influential alumni to question my decisions, claiming that my methods were unethical. But I was ready this time. I had documented everything, kept transparent records, and had my supporters backing me. At a board meeting, she confronted me directly. "Paige, this isn't the way to lead," she said sharply, her voice betraying the anger she was trying to hide. I looked her in the eye, calm but firm. "This is leadership, Emma. Transparent, accountable, and fair. Something you never understood." Her supporters sat silently. The tide was turning. She realized I had become untouchable. Late at night, after long days of managing responsibilities and conflicts, I often sat alone in my office, reflecting. I realized how much I had grown. The betrayal, the campaign, the exposure, it all shaped me into someone more resilient. I understood now that strength wasn't about defeating someone else. It was about controlling your own destiny, reclaiming your dignity, and rising above. Mia stopped by one evening smiling. "You've come a long way," she said. "Emma can't touch you now. You've turned everything around." I nodded, feeling a quiet satisfaction. It's not about Emma anymore. It's about me, what I can do, and how I can help others. The alumni board flourished under my leadership. Programs succeeded, alumni engagement increased, and I felt a deep sense of purpose. I had reclaimed my life, my reputation, and my sense of self-worth. The final lesson hit me hard. Betrayal hurts, but it doesn't define you. It can either break you or teach you to rise stronger. I chose the latter. Emma was a chapter in my story, but I had become the author of my life. And as I stood on the balcony of the Alumni Center looking at the campus where it all began, I wondered life would always have its challenges. But now I knew I was ready. Nothing and no one could shake me again. Just as I thought I had everything under control, a new challenge appeared. It came in the form of an unexpected email. The alumni board had decided to expand their scope. There was a proposal to launch a large-scale fundraising campaign for the university, one that would require the leadership of someone capable of uniting the alumni, students, and faculty, and they wanted me to head it. At first, I was hesitant. The pressure was immense. If I failed, the repercussions would be huge, not just for me, but for the entire alumni community. But I knew deep down that this was my moment. I had fought so hard to get here, to prove myself as a leader. I wasn't going to back down now. I accepted the challenge. The first few weeks were a blur of meetings, plans, and strategies. It was chaotic, but it felt right. My confidence was growing, and I felt more in control than ever. I was surrounded by people who believed in me, alumni, professors, and even students who admired my leadership. For the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But of course, nothing worth doing ever comes without opposition. I started noticing subtle signs of resistance. Some alumni were questioning my methods, asking if I was truly the best person to lead such a monumental campaign. The whispers grew louder, and I couldn't ignore them. Emma's supporters, though distant, hadn't forgotten me. They were quietly maneuvering behind the scenes, trying to disrupt the campaign. And then there was the matter of Jake. Though he had apologized, I began to notice that his interactions with me were cold, distant. Something was off. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still connected to Emma's web in some way. Despite the tension, I focused on the bigger picture. The fundraising campaign was a chance to solidify my legacy, to show the alumni community what I was truly capable of. But I knew that I couldn't do it alone. I needed the support of people who believed in me, who were willing to stand by my side. I reached out to Mia, as always, to help me navigate the growing complexity of the campaign. "We've been through worse," she said, her voice steady. "You've already come so far. Don't let the whispers tear you down." Her words were exactly what I needed. With her encouragement, I gathered a group of alumni who shared my vision. Together, we began to form a strategy that would allow us to launch the campaign successfully, despite the forces working against us. It wasn't long before Emma showed up again, this time in a more formal setting. She was at an alumni event, and as soon as she spotted me, she made a beeline for my table. "Paige," she said, with that same condescending tone, "I see you're still playing the hero. Are you really sure this is the right move? Taking on a project of this scale, you might end up failing just like you did before. You're not the leader they think you are." Her words hit me like a slap. The sting was sharp, but it didn't break me. I stood up, meeting her gaze with a calmness I hadn't known I was capable of. "I've been where you wanted me to be, Emma. I've been broken. But I've rebuilt myself. I'm not going to let you or anyone else dictate my future. Not anymore." She stood there for a moment, her eyes narrowed, but I didn't flinch. I had faced her at her worst, and I wasn't afraid anymore. Emma turned away, walking off without another word. But I knew the battle wasn't over. I had silenced her for now, but the whispers and doubts would continue. As the event went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that the calm wasn't going to last long. There was something lurking in the background, another challenge waiting to reveal itself. I had come so far, but I could sense that Emma wasn't done. And as much as I told myself I was ready for anything, I wasn't sure what was coming next. For a few days after Emma's confrontation, everything seemed to fall back into place. The alumni campaign was moving forward smoothly, and I was starting to feel the momentum. I had a strong team, we were hitting all our targets, and the alumni network was beginning to trust me. The whispers had died down, and the unease in my stomach had finally settled. It seemed like I was finally winning after all the betrayals, the lies, the endless struggle. I was finally in control. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A persistent sense of unease gnawed at the back of my mind like a storm on the horizon waiting to hit. The moment of peace, I realized, was only temporary. I wasn't going to let my guard down. I couldn't. The phone call came late one night. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. When I picked up, it was Jake's voice. "Paige," he said quietly, "we need to talk." "Jake," I said, my heart racing, "what's going on?" "I'm not sure how to say this," he began, his voice uneasy. "But I think I've made a huge mistake. I've been working with Emma. And now, things have gone too far." I froze. I hadn't heard from Jake in weeks, not since our last meeting. The sudden shift in his tone sent a chill down my spine. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I can't explain everything over the phone, but Emma's not done. She's planning something big. I don't know what it is yet, but I can't stand by and let her destroy you," Jake confessed. My mind raced. "Where are you? We need to meet now." We met at a small cafe far from prying eyes. Jake looked different, tired, stressed, and on edge. He handed me a folder filled with documents that I wasn't prepared to see. It was a detailed plan from Emma, one that outlined how she intended to sabotage the fundraising campaign. She had been quietly building alliances with some of the biggest donors, promising them better returns if they backed her, threatening to expose the campaign's weaknesses to the media. Emma's plan was far more intricate than I had imagined. "It's been happening slowly," Jake admitted. "She's been manipulating things from behind the scenes, using leverage and lies. I didn't want to believe it at first, but now I can't keep helping her." I couldn't believe my eyes. Emma had been playing me the entire time. She wasn't just a rival for the presidency. She was trying to destroy everything I had built. But now I had a choice to make. I had the evidence to expose her. But could I trust Jake? Was he truly on my side now, or was this another trap? I decided to confront Emma directly. I had everything in my hands, documents, recordings, and now the truth about her manipulation. I wasn't going to wait for her to strike first. I arranged to meet her at the alumni gala, a place where all the most influential people would be present. It was the perfect setting to make a public statement. When I saw Emma, she was in her usual confident form, greeting guests with that same smile that used to be so familiar. But I knew better now. Behind that smile was a woman who had spent months or maybe years playing a game of lies and manipulation. "Emma," I said, Walking up to her with the folder in hand, "We need to talk." Her face tightened. "Paige, whatever you're planning, it's too late. You're out of your depth." "No, Emma," I replied coldly. "It's you who's out of your depth." I opened the folder and placed it on the table, letting her see everything I knew. "This is over. You're done." Her eyes flared with rage. "You think you've won," she hissed. "You don't know who you're dealing with." But as she turned to leave, I noticed something I hadn't expected. She wasn't just angry, she was scared, and I had no idea what she would do next. The gala ended in a whirlwind of conversations and glances. Emma had stormed off, and I was left standing there, the weight of the confrontation still heavy in my chest. I had exposed her, but something inside me told me that the war wasn't over. She might have walked away from the table, but I could sense that she was already plotting her next move. The following days were filled with tension. The campaign was proceeding smoothly, but there was an underlying current of fear. I couldn't ignore the feeling that Emma was building her forces again, gathering support in secret and waiting for the right moment to strike back. Mia kept checking in on me. "Are you okay? That confrontation, it's over, right?" "I think it's far from over," I replied, pacing around my office. "I know Emma, she's not done. She won't go quietly." But deep down, I also knew that I couldn't back down now. I'd already come so far. This time, I would finish what I started. It happened during the middle of the fundraising campaign, right when things seemed to be reaching a peak. Emma made her move. A leak. A scandalous story about the campaign accusing me of financial mismanagement was published in the local press. The article was explosive painting, a picture of a leader who couldn't manage funds and was wasting alumni contributions. It was the perfect storm of misinformation designed to destroy my credibility. I couldn't believe it. The timing was too precise. Someone had insider knowledge, and I knew exactly who was behind it. Emma had gone too far this time. I didn't waste time. I gathered my team, and we got to work immediately. Mia, of course, was by my side. "This isn't the end," she said. "We've got this. You've been through worse." We called an emergency press conference. I knew the media would want answers. I wasn't going to let Emma's lies take over. This was my moment to take control and clear my name once and for all. The press conference was intense. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust in my face, and reporters shouted questions all at once. The accusations were being thrown at me from every direction. "How do you explain the accusations of financial mismanagement?" one reporter asked. "Do you deny the claims that alumni donations are being mishandled?" another one pressed. But I stood tall, my voice unwavering. "These accusations are baseless. I've worked hard to ensure transparency in this campaign. The financials are open and available for anyone to review. This is a smear campaign, and I will not let it distract us from the work we've done." I could feel the weight of the media's gaze on me. They were skeptical, but I was determined. I had the proof to back up my words, and within minutes I had my team release all the financial documents showing that the campaign was entirely above board. When the press started to see the truth, the tide began to turn. The media began to shift from accusing me to questioning Emma. Her attempts to destroy me were now turning against her. A few days later, the truth came out. Emma had been the one leaking false information about the campaign to the press. She had been feeding them lies, hoping to derail everything I had worked for. But once the truth was out, the backlash was swift and unforgiving. The very alumni and donors she had courted turned on her, distancing themselves from the scandal she had created. Her reputation was shattered. The board voted to remove her from any involvement in the alumni campaign, and her influence was gone. I didn't feel the same sense of victory that I thought I would. Yes, I had beaten her, but it didn't feel like a triumph. Instead, I felt a deep sense of closure. This was finally over. Emma had been exposed for who she truly was. But as I looked at the empty room after the press conference, I realized something important. I hadn't just defeated Emma. I had defeated the version of myself that let others tear her down. I had become someone new, stronger, smarter, and unbreakable. As I left the press conference and walked back to my office, I looked up at the sky, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was done. I had taken back my life. But then my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "This isn't over, Paige. You don't know who you're messing with." I stopped dead in my tracks. Was Emma truly finished, or was there still more to come? The message sat there on my phone, blinking at me like a neon sign. "This isn't over, Paige. You don't know who you're messing with." I stared at it for a long time, my heart pounding in my chest. It could have been another of Emma's empty threats, something to keep me on edge. But the tone felt different. It wasn't just anger. There was a dark undertone to it that made me uneasy. I tried to dismiss it. "It's just a last-ditch attempt to rattle me," I told myself. But the doubt kept creeping in. After everything Emma had put me through, I knew she wasn't someone to take lightly. Could she be planning something more sinister? I looked at the time late at night, just as I was trying to unwind from a long day. I couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. I grabbed my jacket and left my apartment, determined to meet with Mia and figure out what to do next. Whatever was coming, I needed to be prepared. Mia was waiting for me at the cafe, looking as concerned as I felt. I slid into the seat across from her, my fingers trembling slightly. "It's not over, Mia," I said, showing her the message. "Emma's still out there, and I don't know what she's planning, but I know it won't be good." She took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. "Paige, you've done everything you can to expose her. The truth is out there. People see who she really is. You've won. But if you keep worrying about her, she's still winning. You need to focus on what's next for you." "I know," I replied. "But what if she's just getting started? I can't let her destroy everything I've worked for." "Then don't let her," Mia said firmly. "You're stronger than this, and you're not alone. Don't let her drag you back into her world. You've already risen above it." Her words were comforting, but doubt still lingered in my mind. I'd been so focused on Emma and what she had done to me that I hadn't truly allowed myself to think about what came next. The next morning, the worst possible news broke. A video surfaced online, a surveillance video from the gala I had attended a few weeks ago. In it, I was clearly visible talking to a donor about the fundraising campaign. But what wasn't visible was the subtle shift in my body language, the way I seemed to hesitate as the donor made an offhand comment about Emma's campaign. The video was edited, of course, to make it look like I was conspiring with the donor, plotting against the alumni board. It was pure manipulation, and it had the potential to destroy everything. Emma had orchestrated the video release to make it look like I was undermining the campaign from the inside. And once again, the media exploded. They were quick to pick up on the scandal, questioning my loyalty to the cause. I could already hear the whispers growing louder. Mia's face was pale when I called her. "We need to take control of this before it spirals out of control," she said. "I've got your back, Paige, but you can't let this break you." "She's going too far, Mia," I said, my voice tight with frustration. "She's playing dirty and I don't know how to fight this." "You fought worse," Mia reminded me. "Remember what you've already done. You've exposed her lies. Now we have to expose this for what it is. Don't let Emma control the narrative. We'll take the video down, show that it's manipulated, and fight back harder than before." We came up with a plan. I couldn't let the media control the story anymore. I had to act fast, take back control of the narrative, and make it clear that Emma was behind this latest attack. I called an emergency press conference again, but this time it would be different. I had everything in place: legal teams, the alumni board, my supporters. And this time, we were going to turn the tables on Emma. When the cameras were rolling, I stood at the podium and addressed the media. Calm, but resolute. The video that has been circulating is nothing more than an edited, manipulated piece of evidence designed to attack my integrity and undermine the efforts we've been making for the alumni community. I'm here to tell you all the truth. This is an attempt to discredit me, but it won't work. The real manipulator is Emma. The room went silent. I could feel the weight of every camera on me. I had to get this right. I will not let her destroy everything we've worked for, and I will not let her control this narrative. The truth is out there. I will fight for what's right for the alumni, for the students, and for myself. The backlash against Emma was swift. Legal teams were already in motion to take down the video, and within hours the truth began to spread. The public began to see Emma for who she really was, someone who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. Her last desperate attempt to ruin me had failed. But as the press conference wrapped up, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the final chapter? Or was Emma's web of lies more tangled than I realized? As I stepped off the stage, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number, "You think this is over, you haven't seen anything yet." I looked up, heart racing. Emma was done for right. Or was there one more secret she hadn't revealed? The message on my phone, blinking ominously, sent a cold shiver down my spine. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." I stared at it, my hands shaking slightly as I replayed the words in my mind. Emma's anger had always been a force to be reckoned with. But this was something different. The intensity of the message, the finality of her words felt like the calm before the storm. I knew she wasn't done yet, and now the pressure on me was reaching new heights. I tried to dismiss it at first. After all, I had exposed her lies and the public had turned against her. But the reality of the situation was settling in. Emma wasn't going to go quietly. This was her last attempt, and I knew she was capable of doing anything to get back at me. I couldn't afford to be caught off guard again. The game wasn't over yet. The stakes had only gotten higher. I had to prepare for whatever was coming next. It was late in the evening when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and the timing was odd. I peeked through the peephole and saw a familiar face, Jake. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I should let him in. After everything that had happened, after all the lies and manipulation, I didn't know where his loyalties really lay. But I couldn't ignore the message. I opened the door. Page Jake said, his voice low, almost urgent. "We need to talk. Emma, she's planning something big, something you won't see coming." I let him in, my heart pounding. "What is it? What's she planning?" Jake took a deep breath. "She's made contact with some powerful figures in the alumni community, people you'd never expect. She's been gathering support, and now she has something on you, something you don't even know about yet. It's her final move." The room seemed to close in around me. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tight with fear. "She's going to use the one thing you're most vulnerable about," Jake replied. "I can't go into the details, but it's big. You need to act fast." I didn't have much time to waste. I knew Emma was dangerous, but this was next level. Her actions weren't just about the presidency anymore. They were about destroying everything I had worked for. I needed to find out what she was hiding, and I needed to do it quickly. Jake handed me a file documents, emails, and photos that would show Emma's alliances and plans. As I flipped through the pages, my blood ran cold. Emma had managed to manipulate her way into the hearts of influential alumni, promising them returns and using blackmail to get what she wanted. But there, buried deep in the file, was the piece of information I had been searching for. It was a series of emails detailing Emma's secret deal with a rival university, offering them information on our fundraising campaign in exchange for a favor. She was planning to sell out everything we had worked for, all for personal gain. This wasn't just about power, it was about revenge, pure and simple. I couldn't let Emma get away with this. It was time for a final showdown. I knew the perfect setting, the upcoming alumni gala. This event was the culmination of everything I had worked for, and it was my chance to publicly expose Emma one last time. I prepared carefully. I gathered all the evidence. I had documents, recordings, and the proof of Emma's betrayal. I contacted key alumni who were still loyal to me and asked them to stand by my side when I revealed everything. The night of the gala arrived, and I stood in front of the room watching as the alumni mingled. The tension in the air was palpable. I knew Emma would be there watching, waiting for her moment to strike. I walked to the podium, my heart racing, but my resolve clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I began my voice steady. Tonight we celebrate our community, our alumni, and our future. But I must also address something that has been hidden in the shadows, something that threatens the integrity of everything we stand for. The room fell silent as I revealed Emma's manipulations, her betrayal, and the truth about her secret dealings. Emma has been selling us out, manipulating us all for her own gain. She has used her influence to undermine everything we've worked for, and I'm here tonight to expose the truth. Emma stood in the back of the room, her face pale with rage, but she said nothing. The alumni who had once supported her were now turning their backs. As Emma stormed out of the room, I felt a strange sense of victory. But just as I thought it was finally over, I received a text, another anonymous message. "This isn't over, Paige. You'll regret this." I looked at the phone in my hand, my pulse quickening. Was Emma truly done, or was there something even more dangerous waiting for me in the shadows? I stood frozen in the hallway of my office building, staring at the phone in my hand. The message flashed on the screen. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." I had thought Emma was finished. I had exposed her lies, her manipulation, her attempts to destroy me. The media was finally starting to turn against her, and her supporters were backing away. But now the message made me feel like a target again. It felt too calculated, too purposeful. I had a choice. I could turn back to my office and continue as if everything was fine, or I could act. But how much longer could I keep playing this game? I had already put so much on the line, and I had no idea what was waiting around the corner. I made the decision. I wouldn't back down. This time, I'd be the one to finish it. The next morning, the twist came. The email arrived without warning, a warning about something I hadn't anticipated. The subject line read, "Emma's last play." It was a letter from an anonymous source claiming to have insider information about a dark secret Emma had been hiding. As I read through it, my heart sank. The email detailed how Emma had been secretly manipulating the alumni board to gain even more influence over the university. She had been blackmailing key figures within the administration, threatening to expose their own dirty secrets if they didn't help her. Her reach extended beyond just the alumni. It was deeper, more corrupt than I had ever imagined. But what struck me the most was the last line. "Emma is planning to run for a higher position. She's targeting you, Paige. And this time, it's not about the presidency. It's about control over the university itself." I felt a wave of disbelief wash over me. Emma wasn't just fighting for power in the alumni community, she was aiming to take control of the university itself. This wasn't just a petty rivalry anymore. This was a war for control, and I was caught in the middle of it. With this new revelation, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to act. I called Mia, and together we began to devise a plan to expose Emma's manipulation. But I knew this wouldn't be easy. The people involved in her scheme were powerful. I called in trusted allies who had always been by my side. I needed people who knew how to handle this level of corruption, people who understood the university's internal politics, and could help me expose Emma for what she truly was. The plan was risky. It involved working with journalists and some key insiders to bring her operations to light. We'd gather the evidence, confront the administration, and make sure Emma's web of lies and manipulation couldn't be ignored. The night before everything was set to go down, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's face, smiling, cold, calculating. I knew she wouldn't give up without a fight. The following day, we presented the evidence to the university's board. It was a tense meeting, and I could feel the weight of every word that was said. The members of the board were shocked as we revealed how Emma had been manipulating the system, using her influence to blackmail powerful people and threatening the very foundation of the university. We had the receipts, the documents, the recordings, the emails that proved everything. Emma could no longer deny it. But the biggest shock came when the head of the board, someone Emma had thought was loyal to her, stood up and turned against her. "I've known about Emma's dealings for some time," he said, his voice stern. "But I never thought it would come to this. This ends now." Emma's face turned pale. She tried to speak to defend herself, but it was too late. The board voted to strip her of all influence at the university, removing her from any decision-making roles and cutting ties with her completely. As she was escorted out of the room, her face twisted with rage. It was over. Finally, Emma had been defeated, and the university could begin healing from the damage she had caused. The days after Emma's fall were filled with a strange sense of peace. The university began the process of rebuilding, and I focused on ensuring the future of the alumni community and the campaign I had worked so hard for. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight of Emma's manipulations, her lies, and her games were gone. I had taken back control of my life. The university was no longer under the shadow of her influence. Mia, who had been my rock throughout all of this, gave me a small smile. "You did it," she said. "You fought harder than anyone ever could." "I didn't just fight her," I replied, a sense of finality settling over me. "I fought for myself, and I'm not going to let anyone take that from me again." As I looked out at the university from my office window, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Emma had been the storm in my life, but I had weathered it, and now I was standing tall in the calm. But just as I thought everything was finally over, my phone buzzed again. It was another message this time from an unknown number. "You may have won today, Paige, but this isn't over. Watch your back." My breath caught in my throat. Was it really over, or was the final chapter yet to be written? I stood frozen for a moment, staring at the phone in my hand. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." The message from the unknown number was a cold reminder that Emma's reach was far from over. The weight of it settled deep in my chest. She wasn't done. She wouldn't go quietly into the shadows. I had thought I could breathe now after everything after the press conference, the legal victories, the public exposure of her lies. But now I realized how naive I had been. Mia had been right all along. This wasn't just about a presidency or a campaign anymore. It had become a battle of wills of survival. And Emma had always been a player who could lie, manipulate, and destroy to get what she wanted. Now, it felt like she was coming for the last piece of control she thought she could take from me, my peace, my reputation, and the future I had worked so hard to secure. I couldn't let her win again, not after everything. The phone buzzed again, a series of rapid notifications lighting up the screen. It wasn't just more anonymous threats. There was something different this time. The notifications were from my closest allies in the alumni community, people. I trusted people who had supported me. They were all questioning my recent actions. Some of them were worried about the fallout from the scandal with Emma. Others were concerned that I had taken things too far. I couldn't believe it. Had Emma's influence wormed its way into my closest circles? Had I been so focused on fighting her that I had lost sight of my own integrity? I needed to know who was with me and who had turned. I called a meeting with Mia. We had to discuss everything. "I think they're trying to turn my own supporters against me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know," Mia replied, her eyes sharp with concern. "We need to find out if they're just afraid or if Emma is behind this. If they've been compromised, we need to cut ties now before it spreads. But we have to act fast. Emma's next move could be bigger than we think." The realization hit me hard. Emma had always been good at manipulating people. She had the power to make people doubt each other, and if she had started with my supporters, I might lose everything. We got to work immediately, reaching out to people who had been with me from the beginning. Slowly, the pieces started to fall into place. It turned out that Emma had been quietly working to divide my supporters one by one. She had been whispering in their ears, planting doubts about my leadership and my handling of the campaign. The last piece of her plan wasn't just to destroy me publicly, it was to make sure that when I fell alone. Jake appeared again. This time he seemed different. Less cold, more agitated, like he was running out of time. He insisted that I meet him at a secluded spot away from the public eye. When I arrived, he looked over his shoulder nervously. "I didn't want to bring this to you," he said quietly. "But I don't know who to trust anymore. Emma's playing a deeper game. She's not just working with alumni anymore. She's got connections with people in high places. You need to be ready for the worst." I felt a chill run down my spine. High places, this was bigger than I had thought. Emma's influence had spread far beyond the alumni community. She was getting help from powerful figures, and they were willing to do anything to take me down. "I won't let her win," I said, my voice steady but laced with fear. "We'll take her down together." Jake hesitated. "You don't understand, Paige. The people she's working with, they can't be touched by normal means. She's already got enough on me. If I help you, it could destroy everything." I could feel the betrayal simmering beneath his words, but I pushed it aside. Now wasn't the time to argue with him. It was time to take action. Time was running out. The deeper I dug, the more I uncovered. Emma's alliances with people in the university administration were only the tip of the iceberg. She had been selling confidential information, planning to use the media to destroy my credibility once and for all. She was creating a storm so chaotic that even if I exposed her now, I would be caught in the crossfire. I called in my legal team. If Emma thought she could destroy me through lies, I would turn the tables. I had the evidence, the recordings, the documents. I had built up a strong defense, but I knew this wasn't just about a media battle. This was about power. In the final confrontation, I had to show everyone, including Emma's new powerful allies, that I wasn't just some victim to be exploited. I wasn't afraid anymore. With Mia and the legal team by my side, I made the call to present all of Emma's dealings, all of her secret alliances, and the trail of corruption she had left behind. It wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. It was about bringing down Emma and her empire. The press conference was scheduled. I had everything in place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this would be the ultimate gamble. If I exposed Emma and her powerful allies, what would the consequences be? Could I really trust everyone around me? And was I truly ready to take down the system that had allowed Emma to thrive for so long? As I walked into the room, the weight of the moment settled on me. I was about to face Emma's final play, and I knew there was no turning back. The message from the unknown number was still fresh in my mind. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." I had thought Emma was finished. I had exposed her lies, her manipulations, and I had rallied the support of the alumni and the university board to stand against her. The press conference had worked. She had been stripped of her influence. But this message, this threat, made it clear that Emma's reach wasn't over. I had thought the worst was behind me, but as I stared at the phone, I knew better than to believe that. Emma wasn't the type to back down quietly. No, she was planning something. I could feel it in my bones. I had already been through so much, but now I couldn't let my guard down. If she had more cards to play, I needed to be ready to counter them. I couldn't let her pull me back into the chaos. Mia's voice broke my thoughts. "You're still thinking about it, aren't you?" she asked gently. I nodded. I can't shake the feeling that this isn't the end. I just got the feeling Emma is setting something up, something bigger than what we've dealt with. "You've already exposed her," Mia said, her voice firm. "There's nothing more she can do. You've won, Paige." "Have I?" I muttered. I wasn't sure anymore. The thing is, I don't think it's about winning. It's about survival. She's not just going to let me walk away from this. Just when I thought I had enough to handle the situation took a turn I wasn't prepared for. I received a phone call from Jake. "I need to see you, Paige." He said, his voice urgent but also oddly strained. I had already distanced myself from him after everything. His involvement in Emma's schemes had hurt me more than I was willing to admit. But I couldn't ignore him. If he was coming to me now, it could only mean one thing. Something big was happening. I agreed to meet him at the same cafe where we had met before. He was already sitting at the table, his eyes filled with worry. "I've made a huge mistake, Paige," he said before I even sat down. "What's going on, Jake?" I asked, my frustration simmering beneath the surface. "What do you want from me now? I wasn't entirely honest with you before. Emma, she's not just trying to destroy your campaign. She's going after your family." Jake confessed, his voice shaking. "She's been using them against you the entire time, Paige. She's been digging into your personal life, finding ways to hurt you even more." The blood drained from my face. I had known Emma was dangerous, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice quiet but intense. "What do you mean she's using my family against me?" Jake looked around nervously before leaning closer. "Emma found something on your father. She knows about his financial troubles. She's been threatening to leak it to the media if you don't step down." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. "You're saying she's going to expose my father's past?" Jake nodded, his expression full of regret. "She's got connections, Paige. Powerful people. I didn't want to tell you this, but I can't sit back anymore. She's not going to stop until she destroys you, and now she's got a personal weapon." I felt like the floor was pulled out from beneath me. My father's past, something I had worked so hard to protect, was about to be used as a weapon against me. This wasn't just about my leadership anymore. It was about everything I had built, everything I had kept hidden. I had to act fast. I couldn't let Emma destroy everything I held dear. But first, I had to find out what exactly she had on my father. I contacted the people I trusted, the ones who could help me uncover the truth. The more I dug, the more I realized how deep Emma's reach went. She had indeed uncovered some of my father's old debts, things he had worked hard to bury in the past, and now she was planning to use them as leverage against me. The betrayal cut deep, but I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. I decided to confront Emma directly. I had to take control of the narrative before she could use my father's struggles against me. This was my final chance to expose everything she was planning. I reached out to Mia, and together we came up with a strategy to confront Emma once and for all. The university board, my allies, the media, everything would be in place to expose her manipulations once again. I couldn't allow Emma to pull me back into her web of lies and destruction. This time, I was going to bring everything to light, and I wouldn't let her escape. The final showdown took place at the university gala. It was the perfect setting where everyone would be watching. The media, the alumni, the faculty, it was all going to come to a head here. I stood on stage, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I wasn't just fighting for my reputation anymore. I was fighting for my family, my future, and my peace. As I addressed the room, I spoke with everything I had. Emma has been playing us all using manipulation and fear to control this entire community. But I'm here to tell you the truth. She has been threatening my family, using their past to tear me down. The room fell silent. People were stunned, shocked, unsure of how to respond. But I pressed on. "But I will not let her win. This ends now." The crowd began to murmur, and as the truth unfolded, I could see Emma's face growing pale with fear. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected me to expose her own betrayal so publicly. The media was already picking up the story, broadcasting everything I said, and within moments, the entire narrative was shifting. Emma's influence began to crumble in real time. Emma tried to leave, but security was already moving in. Before she could exit the room, I saw her eyes lock on mine, filled with a mix of fury and desperation. She wasn't done yet. As I watched her being escorted away, my phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "You may have won this battle, Paige, but the war is far from over." I stopped in my tracks. Could Emma still have a card to play? Was this truly the end, or was something even darker about to come to light? I stared at the phone in my hand, the message flashing on the screen. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." Emma's words echoed in my mind, cold and unsettling. As I stood in the middle of the gala, watching the crowd shift and murmur, I could feel the weight of her threat pressing down on me. She wasn't done. I had exposed her manipulations, torn down her public image, but Emma had always been resourceful, and she wasn't going to go quietly. Despite the triumph in the room, despite the fact that the battle had seemed to tip in my favor, I knew better than to believe it was truly over. Emma had always been one step ahead, and I had no idea what final play she was holding back. The applause faded, but my thoughts didn't. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number. I didn't need to see it to know who it was. It was Emma reaching out from the shadows. Mia was beside me, sensing my tension. "Are you all right?" she asked. I turned to her, my face tight. "I'm fine, but I don't think Emma's finished. She has more to play with. I can feel it. You've exposed everything." "This is the final chapter," Paige Mia said, squeezing my shoulder reassuringly. "You've won." "I've won for now." I whispered, my eyes scanning the room. "But I don't think the game's over just yet." The next few hours were filled with a strange unease. The gala went on, people celebrating, congratulating me on my victory. But something was off. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing behind the scenes, something far worse than I was prepared for. The feeling grew when I checked my email later that night. There, waiting for me in my inbox, was an encrypted message. I knew it was from someone who had information, someone who had been watching my every move. The email came with a file attachment, one that sent a chill down my spine. It was a recording, a video from the gala. But this wasn't just any recording. The footage showed me interacting with key university figures, alumni and donors. The clip had been manipulated, edited in a way that made it appear as if I was conspiring with some of the most influential people to destroy Emma's reputation. I felt the color drain from my face as I watched the edited footage. The voices in the background were altered to make it sound like I was plotting against the university, orchestrating an attack on Emma's legacy. It was the perfect setup to undo everything I had fought for. If this video was released, it could ruin me. I called Mia immediately. "This isn't over," I said, my voice thick with panic. "She's still playing the game." Mia's voice was steady on the other end. "We need to expose this page. If Emma's behind it, we need to show the world she's the one pulling the strings. Let's stop her for good." "Do you think this is the final attempt?" I asked, my hand gripping the phone tighter. "I'm not sure, but it's a dangerous game," Mia replied. "We'll make sure the truth is out before she can use this against you." We couldn't waste time. The video had to be exposed, and I couldn't let Emma's last-ditch effort destroy everything I'd worked so hard for. I knew the media would jump on this already. I could imagine the headlines, "Paige's Hidden Agenda." The secret plot to destroy. Emma, or is Paige the true manipulator? It would be a storm of media frenzy, and I had no choice but to face it head on. Mia and I began to formulate a plan. The first step was to make sure the video was analyzed to prove its manipulation. I called in my legal team to work on getting the footage cleared and verified as fake. We needed irrefutable proof that this was just another one of Emma's tricks. Meanwhile, I called a press conference. I knew the media would be all over this, so I had to act quickly and decisively. We couldn't let Emma use this to spin the narrative in her favor. I could feel the weight of the moment as the press conference approached. My reputation, my future, it was all hanging on this one final stand. If I didn't act, everything could come crashing down. This was the ultimate test of everything I had fought for. The day of the press conference arrived. The room was packed with reporters, cameras, flashing the air, thick with anticipation. This was it, the moment I had prepared for. It was time to expose Emma for what she truly was. I stood at the podium holding the video in my hand, ready to reveal everything. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice strong and steady. "What you've seen tonight is not the truth. This video that has surfaced is a manipulation designed to destroy my reputation, and by extension, the work we've done for the alumni and the university. I played the unedited footage for the press, showing how Emma had twisted the narrative to make it seem like I was conspiring against her. Emma is behind all of this. She's the one who has been manipulating the system using fear and deceit to control the narrative. She has tried to destroy everything we've built, and now it's time for the truth to come out. The press room went silent. Every eye was on me. I could feel the weight of their scrutiny, but I stood firm, unyielding. I am not the villain here, I continued. Emma has played us all, but it ends now. She's not just manipulating us, she's been manipulating the entire system to serve her own interests. And today, I'm here to expose her once and for all. As I finished speaking, I saw Emma in the back of the room, her face contorted with rage. The media was already beginning to turn. The truth had been laid bare, and there was no going back for Emma. Emma didn't say a word. She stormed out of the room, but I knew she wasn't done. As I walked away from the podium, my phone buzzed again with an anonymous message. "You won't escape this page. This is far from over." Was Emma truly finished, or was this just the beginning of her final act? The message from the unknown number burned into my mind. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." As I stood in the aftermath of the gala, the weight of Emma's words was still heavy on my chest. I had just exposed her manipulation, but her parting message was a haunting reminder that she wasn't going to give up so easily. I had thought the battle was over. The board had stripped her of influence, the press had reported the truth, and my supporters were rallying behind me. But Emma's ability to pull strings, even from the shadows, made me question if this was truly the end. I had to be ready. This game wasn't just about the presidency or the university, it was about power, control, and survival. Emma had already tried to destroy me once, and I knew that if I let my guard down now, she would come back even stronger. Mia, sensing my unease, placed a hand on my shoulder. "Paige, we've done it. She's finished." I shook my head. "She's not finished. She's just getting started. I can feel it." The days following the gala were filled with meetings, phone calls, and messages of support from friends and alumni. It seemed like Emma's influence was finally crumbling. People were rallying behind me, and the university board had started working on a plan for the future, one that didn't include her. But something was off. The relief I had expected didn't come. Every time I looked at my phone, I hesitated, expecting another threat or another message from her. Then one evening, I received an unexpected call. It was from Jake. "I need to meet you," he said, his voice desperate. "I know you've probably written me off, but you need to hear this." I agreed to meet him, though a part of me still questioned his motives. He had been involved with Emma, but I couldn't ignore him now. If there was anything left to expose, I had to hear it. We met at a quiet cafe away from the eyes of the public. Jake's face was pale, his hands shaking. "I've made a mistake, Paige. I shouldn't have kept quiet about this. Emma, she's not done, and she's not just trying to ruin your career." "What is it?" I asked, leaning forward. "What has she done now?" Jake looked around nervously before speaking in a hushed tone. "She's been playing a bigger game. She's gone to the board of trustees, and she's trying to pull strings there. She's planning to use the university's influence to destroy you completely. This isn't just about you anymore. She's going after your legacy, everything you've worked for." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean? What can she do now?" "She's trying to manipulate the board into making a move that would invalidate the election," Jake explained. "She's got powerful allies, Paige. People you wouldn't expect. She's planning to get them to reverse the decision and take the power back. She's trying to make it look like you're unfit to lead." I felt my heart race. This was worse than I had thought. Emma wasn't just playing for revenge anymore, she was trying to destroy everything I had built. Jake's revelation was a wake-up call. I had to stop her once and for all. But now, it wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about protecting everything I had worked for. I couldn't let Emma destroy my future or my family's reputation. The stakes were higher than ever before. This wasn't just a fight for leadership, it was a fight for everything I had fought for. I called Mia immediately, and we began working on a plan. We couldn't just sit back and wait for the board to make a decision. We had to act. If Emma was planning to manipulate them, I would expose her before she could make her move. We gathered all the evidence we could: documents, emails, insider information about Emma's plans, everything that could show she was plotting behind the scenes. But this time, we needed to be more strategic. We couldn't just rely on exposing her to the media. We needed to hit her where it would hurt the most by taking her power away at the source. I reached out to trusted alumni people who had seen through Emma's facade. Together, we put a plan in motion. We would take this to the Board of Trustees, reveal Emma's corruption, and make sure her influence was stripped away for good. The day of the meeting with the board arrived. This was it, the final confrontation. I was prepared to lay everything on the line. If Emma thought she could manipulate the system again, she was in for a surprise. I stood before the board, my voice steady but my heart racing. I know many of you have been hearing rumors, whispers about me and my leadership I began. But today, I'm here to tell you the truth. Emma has been using her influence to manipulate not just the alumni, but the board as well. She's been playing a dangerous game, and she's done everything she can to destroy me. The room was silent, every member of the board hanging on my words. I continued, my voice growing stronger. But I'm not going to let her control this narrative any longer. I have the evidence, documents, recordings, and first-hand accounts from those who have witnessed Emma's manipulations. I played the recordings and showed the documents proving that Emma had been secretly making deals with key board members and using threats to control the decision-making process. The room was filled with gasps as they saw Emma's true intentions. As I finished, I turned to the board. This is bigger than a power struggle between us. This is about the future of this university, and I won't let Emma use it as her personal playground. The room erupted into chaos. Some board members were angry, others were in shock. But as the board began to deliberate, Emma stood up, her face red with fury. "You think you've won," she spat. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. This isn't over, Paige, not by a long shot." I stood there, my heart pounding. I had exposed her, but I knew Emma wasn't done yet. As she stormed out of the room, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. This was her final play. But was this really the end, or was there more she had up her sleeve? I stood still, staring at the message on my phone. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." My heart skipped a beat. It was from the same unknown number, the same anonymous sender who had been haunting me for weeks. The fear and uncertainty from the message crept back into my bones. After all the battles, after everything I had exposed, Emma still had one last secret up her sleeve. I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I had thought it was finally over. The press conference had worked. I had confronted Emma, and the truth was out in the open. She had been exposed for who she truly was. But that damn message, "This isn't over," felt like a final warning, like a storm waiting to erupt. My mind raced. What was her final move? What could she possibly have left to destroy me with? She had already lost everything: her reputation, her power, her allies. Yet somehow I knew better than to think she was finished. Mia entered my office looking at me with concern. "Paige, what's going on? You've been staring at that phone for hours." I looked up, shaking my head. "She's not done. Emma, she's planning something else. Something big." Mia's brow furrowed. "You're sure?" It's been 5 years since I graduated from the university, and today, as I walk across the familiar campus, everything feels so different. The old brick buildings, the trees lining the walkways, even the smell of the air, it all feels so much more distant. The memories of my time here are a mix of triumph and, well, betrayal. The next morning, I received another call from Jake. My stomach churned. After everything that had happened between us, I wasn't sure if I could trust him. But this time, he sounded desperate. "I need to talk to you," he said, breathless. "I know what she's planning. She's been hiding something, and I can't sit back and watch it happen." I agreed to meet him, feeling both suspicion and an overwhelming need for answers. When I saw him, he looked worse than before, more frantic and nervous than I'd ever seen him. "I'm sorry," Jake began, avoiding my gaze. "I should have told you this earlier, but I didn't think you'd believe me. Emma, she's got someone working for her, someone inside the university. They're planning something huge, and it's all connected to the Board of Trustees." My heart pounded in my chest. "What do you mean? What's she planning?" Jake handed me a folder. Inside were documents, emails, and cryptic notes about a backroom deal involving the Board of Trustees and influential members of the university's administration. Emma had been blackmailing certain people with a power play that could undermine everything I had accomplished. She was still trying to take control of the university, but this time it wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming the institution itself. "She's planning to frame you," Jake said, his voice low, "and she's using the board to do it. She'll destroy your entire career with one final blow." The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Emma's final strike was far more dangerous than I had thought. She wasn't just after me. She was going to destroy everything I had worked for, the entire alumni campaign, the university, the legacy I was trying to build. I couldn't let her win. I had to expose this for what it was, and I had to do it quickly. I knew I had to move fast. Time was running out, and if Emma succeeded, I would lose everything: my reputation, my future, my family. I couldn't let her take that from me. I contacted my most trusted allies, the people who had supported me from the beginning, and we started working on a plan to counter her. I would have to confront the board, confront the university, and expose everything she was trying to do. The plan was simple: gather all the evidence of Emma's manipulation, prove that she had been blackmailing the board, and expose her dirty dealings to the public. But I needed more than just documents and emails. I needed people who could testify to her behavior, people who had been working behind the scenes to keep her schemes in motion. Jake, despite his earlier hesitation, agreed to help me. "I can't let her do this," he said, his voice resolute. "I'll get you the rest of the evidence. We can stop her together." I wasn't sure I could trust him fully, but right now I didn't have a choice. If we were going to take down Emma once and for all, we needed to do it together. The day of the final showdown came. It was the most intense moment of my life. I stood before the Board of Trustees, ready to expose Emma's final move and take control back from the people who had tried to manipulate me. The room was packed and every eye was on me. As I spoke, I felt the weight of everything that had happened settle on my shoulders. "I'm here today to expose the truth." I said, my voice steady but full of emotion. Emma has been working behind the scenes to destroy not just me, but the very future of this university. She has been blackmailing key members of the board and manipulating everyone involved, but I won't let her do it anymore. I paused to let the words sink in. This ends now. The truth is here. Emma's schemes are laid bare and there's no going back for her. I showed the board the evidence, emails, documents, testimonies from people who had witnessed Emma's manipulations. The room was silent as the board members reviewed the proof. I could feel Emma's gaze on me, her fury palpable, but she was powerless now. One by one, the board members began to turn against her. The chairman stood up, his voice booming through the silence. "Emma, you've betrayed this institution. Your actions will not be tolerated. You are hereby removed from any further involvement in the university." It was over. Emma's reign was officially finished. The room erupted in applause, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. This battle had been long, but I had won. As the room began to empty, I caught a glimpse of Emma. She was standing by the door, staring at me with eyes full of rage and something darker, fear. She wasn't done. I could feel it. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "You've won today, Paige, but there's always another battle." I looked up, my heart racing. Was this truly the end of Emma's games, or was there still something darker waiting for me? I stood in the middle of the empty conference room, my hands trembling slightly as I stared at the empty chair where Emma had once sat. It was over. Emma had been exposed. Her grip on the university was severed. The board had stripped her of all power her allies had turned away, and I had won. But despite the victory, a strange emptiness settled within me. The message from the anonymous number kept echoing in my mind, "You may have won today, but this isn't over." There was something about the tone that sent a shiver down my spine, something that made me question if this was truly the end. I tried to push the feeling aside. I had done everything right. I had fought for what was mine, for my future, for my family's legacy. Emma had played her cards, and I had outsmarted her. I had taken back control. But why did I feel like the worst was still to come? Mia called me that night concerned about the aftermath. "You did it, Paige. You stopped her. You've won." "I thought I had won," I replied, my voice heavy. "But something feels off. I don't know if it's truly over. I can't shake the feeling that Emma still has something hidden up her sleeve." "Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together," Mia reassured me. But even her words couldn't erase the unease gnawing at my gut. The following day, I received another message, this time from an unexpected source. It was an email from a familiar name, Professor Michael Cunningham, a professor who had been a mentor to me during my time at university. "Paige, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but I've learned something you need to know. Emma's final play is much more dangerous than you think. She's working with someone far more powerful than you realize. Please meet me in person as soon as possible. There's still more at play here than you know." My heart raced as I read the email. Professor Cunningham had always been someone I trusted, and now his message had cast doubt on everything I had thought was behind me. I agreed to meet him in a secluded spot on campus. I arrived early, my mind swirling with questions. What more could Emma have done? What was I missing? When Professor Cunningham arrived, his face was pale, his eyes filled with urgency. "Paige, I didn't want to get you involved, but I'm afraid there's something much bigger at play here. Emma isn't just targeting you anymore. She's trying to destroy the very foundation of this university. She's made deals with powerful figures, people who can't be touched by normal means." "Who are these people?" I asked, my voice tight with fear. He lowered his voice to a whisper. "There are influential alumni board members and even some faculty who've been protecting her. She's involved in something much darker. She's not just after your career, Paige. She's after control of the entire university." I felt a chill crawl down my spine. "What are you saying? She's going after the entire institution?" "Yes," he replied. "She's trying to manipulate the power structures, and if she succeeds, she could completely alter the future of this place. She's using people's weaknesses to gain her advantage. You need to stop her before it's too late." Emma's last threat wasn't just about destroying me, it was about taking control of everything. This was more than a personal vendetta. It was a power play on a scale I had never anticipated. I knew what I had to do. I had to stop her before she could make her final move. The university, the alumni community. My future, it was all hanging in the balance. I called a meeting with my closest allies. Mia, Jake, Professor Cunningham, together, we had to figure out how to expose Emma and her hidden network of allies. We had to act fast before she could pull the strings one last time. Jake was hesitant at first, but seeing how serious this had become, he agreed to help. "This isn't just about you anymore, Paige. We need to bring down the entire network she's built. If we don't, Emma will get away with everything." We gathered evidence quietly, reaching out to those who had been working with Emma in the shadows. This time we would expose not just Emma, but the people who had been aiding her. We couldn't let Emma's final move succeed. The truth had to come out no matter the cost. The day of the final confrontation came faster than I expected. We had everything in place: documents, testimonies, irrefutable proof of Emma's network and her manipulation of the board. This time, we would do things differently. The media would be involved. The public would see the full extent of Emma's actions. We couldn't allow her to continue hiding in the shadows, pulling the strings. It was time for everyone to know the truth. I stood before the university's governing body, my hands steady, my voice strong. Today, I'm here to expose the real enemy. It's not just Emma, it's the people who've been enabling her, those who've been using their influence to protect her and sabotage everything we've worked for. This isn't just a fight for leadership. This is a fight for the future of this university. The room was silent as I laid out the evidence. One by one, the people Emma had aligned herself with were revealed. Professors, alumni board members, all of them had been part of the conspiracy to control the university. As the board members began to process the evidence, Emma's face turned a deep shade of red. She tried to speak, but her voice faltered. "You've lost Emma," I said, my voice unwavering. "It's over." But just as I thought I had won, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned around to see Professor Cunningham, his face filled with fear. "Paige, there's one more thing you don't know," he whispered. "Emma's final move isn't just about the university. It's personal. She's planning to take everything from you, and there's someone else involved, someone you least expect." I stared at him, my heart pounding. What was he talking about? Who else was behind this? I stared at the message on my phone, my heart sinking as the words, "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet," stared back at me. It felt like the calm before a storm. Emma had been exposed, her power stripped, but deep down I knew I hadn't heard the last of her. There was still something in the air, something dark that lingered, something that told me this wasn't truly the end. Mia called later that evening. "Paige, you're quiet. What's going on?" "I don't know what she has left," I said, voice trembling, but I know she's not just going to walk away. "What else could she possibly do?" Mia asked, her tone a mix of frustration and concern. "She's been dismantled. The board made their decision. There's no way she can come back from this." I wish I could believe that, I said, rubbing my temples, but there's still a feeling in the pit of my stomach that says otherwise. Mia stayed quiet for a moment. "Paige, you fought this long. Whatever she tries now, we'll handle it." But I wasn't so sure. My instincts told me to be on guard. Emma wasn't the type to accept defeat quietly. I had seen her relentless, manipulative side for far too long. She wasn't going to let go that easily. And then just as I was about to put my phone down, the doorbell rang. I opened it cautiously, wondering who could be at my door this late. Standing there was none other than Professor Cunningham, his face pale and his eyes filled with anxiety. He'd always been someone I trusted, but the urgency in his presence made my heart race. "Paige, we need to talk," he said in a low voice, glancing around as if making sure no one was listening. "I've learned something about Emma, something big. It's not over, and she's planning something that could undo everything you've worked for." I let Professor Cunningham inside my mind, racing with questions. What more could Emma possibly have left? She had already been exposed for what she truly was, a manipulative schemer, willing to destroy anyone in her path to gain power. But Cunningham's words suggested there was still something I hadn't anticipated. I don't know how to explain this, but Emma has been working with someone much more powerful than I realized, Cunningham said, his voice shaking slightly. "There's a hidden network, Paige. People inside the university and the board people you wouldn't expect. She's been making deals with them for months." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Who are they?" "What are you saying?" Professor Cunningham leaned forward. "I've been investigating her actions behind the scenes, trying to find the full extent of what she's been doing. And what I've found is worse than I could have imagined. She's been using the university's funds and influence to manipulate key players in the administration, all while threatening and blackmailing those who refuse to cooperate. And she's not done yet." I felt my stomach twist. So she's been using the university as her personal chessboard. "Yes," Cunningham confirmed. "But here's the worst part. She's planning to use that network to make her final move. She's got leverage over powerful people, people who can't be touched by ordinary means. She's going to use them to destroy everything you've built. She's not just trying to ruin your career anymore. She's after the entire university's future." I could hardly breathe. This wasn't just about a power struggle anymore. Emma was preparing to tear apart the entire institution. What do we do? I whispered, my voice shaking with the weight of it all. Professor Cunningham looked at me, his face filled with regret. We have to expose everything. We have to pull back the curtain and show everyone the truth about Emma and the people who've been helping her. But you need to act quickly, Paige. If we don't stop her now, it could be too late. I knew Cunningham was right. Emma wasn't going down quietly. She had always been a step ahead, and now with her network of allies, she was ready to strike. But this time, I wasn't going to let her have the last word. I called Mia and Jake, immediately laying out the situation. Together, we started working on a plan to take down Emma and her hidden network. We would need all the help we could get, and we couldn't afford to waste any more time. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how deeply embedded Emma's manipulations ran. She had allies in high places, people who were willing to sell their souls to protect her. Mia, ever the strategist, suggested we go straight to the press. If Emma has allies in the board, then we'll need the media to expose her, she said. We can't afford to wait for the university to act. We need to force them to make a decision. Jake was hesitant at first, but after hearing the full extent of what Emma was planning, he agreed. If she's trying to control the university, we'll expose everything. But we'll need solid proof, Paige. I nodded. We've got the evidence, and we'll need to make sure it's airtight. No one can protect her this time. The next few days were a blur of activity. I reached out to key alumni who had always supported me, those who had the power to help me expose Emma and her network. We gathered every shred of evidence we could find, documents, emails, and testimonies from those who had seen Emma's manipulation firsthand. We had to show the world who she really was, and we had to do it before she could make her move. The media was on our side. Once we had everything in place, we scheduled a press conference. I knew this would be the moment that determined everything. If Emma had any chance left to recover, this would be her last shot. She would either fight back or fade into the shadows. Either way, I had to make sure she couldn't win. The day of the press conference arrived. My heart raced as I stood before the cameras, ready to face the world and expose everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice steady. What you've seen over the past few weeks is only the tip of the iceberg. Emma has been manipulating this university, using her influence to control the board, to control the administration, and to destroy anyone who stood in her way. The room was silent. Every camera was trained on me, the world waiting to hear what I had to say next. But it's time for the truth to come out. We've gathered the evidence, and today we reveal the full extent of Emma's corruption. She's not just a disgraced leader. She's a manipulator who has used this institution for her own gain. As I showed the evidence, emails, recordings, and documents, Emma's face grew pale. She tried to speak, but the media drowned her out. Her final play was exposed for what it was, a desperate attempt to retain control. Just as I thought I had won, Emma stood up, her face twisted with rage. "You think you've won," she spat. "You have no idea what's coming next. This isn't over. You've made the biggest mistake of your life, Paige." I watched as she stormed out of the room, knowing this wasn't the end. Emma wasn't going down without one last fight. My phone buzzed with another anonymous message. "You've won for now, Paige, but I will have the last word." I stood frozen, heart racing. Was Emma truly finished, or was there one final twist awaiting me? I stared at the anonymous text one last time. "You think this is over? You haven't seen anything yet." My phone trembled in my hand, but I knew it was finally time. Every step, every battle, every manipulation Emma had tried to use against me had led to this final confrontation. I had exposed her lies, her manipulations, and her network. Now the only thing left was to close the chapter once and for all. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of weeks of stress and fear lifting slightly. Emma had been relentless, but I had survived. I had taken control, and nothing would shake my resolve this time. Mia stood beside me, her hand gripping mine. "Are you ready, Paige?" she asked softly. I nodded. "I'm ready. This ends tonight." The press conference room was packed with cameras flashing and reporters murmuring. The university board was present along with the remaining allies who had been manipulated by Emma. I stood at the podium, my evidence-ready emails, recordings, and documents revealing Emma's full scheme from blackmailing the board to attempting to manipulate influential alumni. Today I began Voice Strong and Unwavering. We reveal the full extent of Emma's manipulation. She has attempted to control not just the alumni board, but the entire administration of this university. She has used fear threats and deception to undermine all of us. I played the recordings and presented the evidence showing every detail of Emma's schemes. The room went silent as everyone absorbed the truth. Her allies could no longer defend her. Emma tried to interrupt her voice, trembling with rage, but the board raised their hands to silence her. "Enough," the chairman said. "Your time is over, Emma. You are permanently removed from any role or influence within this university." Emma's face twisted with fury as she was escorted from the room. But the world had seen the truth. Her network, her lies, her manipulation all exposed. The media was live broadcasting everything I had revealed. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The threat was gone. Mia hugged me tightly. "You did it, Paige. You stopped her." I exhaled, feeling the weight of the past few months finally release. "It's over," I said, my voice firm. "At least this chapter is." I knew Emma might try to come back in some way, but with her network destroyed, her allies gone, and the truth out, I was confident she no longer had the power to hurt me. The days that followed were quieter, calmer. I returned to my work on the alumni board, ensuring transparency, integrity, and fairness. I rebuilt relationships with alumni who had been misled, creating an environment free from fear and manipulation. I reflected on everything I had endured. Betrayal, lies, manipulation, it had all shaped me. But through the darkness, I discovered my resilience, my strength, and my ability to fight for what I believed in. Emma had tried to destroy me, but I had risen above it. I had turned every threat into a lesson, every challenge into an opportunity to assert my strength. I had reclaimed my life, my future, and my peace of mind. Sitting in my office, I looked out at the university grounds. The sun was setting, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and pink. Everything felt calm, restored. The storm was over, and I had survived. I picked up my phone, deleted the last anonymous message, and placed it in the drawer. There would be no more reminders of Emma's threats. The past was behind me. I smiled to myself, feeling a sense of empowerment I had never felt before. I had fought, I had endured, and I had won not just against Emma, but against fear, manipulation, and doubt. And now it was truly over. Sometimes the greatest battles aren't against others. They're against the fear, doubt, and betrayal we carry inside. But when we face them with courage and resilience, we emerge stronger, wiser, and ready for the future. The university was safe, my family was safe, and I was free. The chapter closed and a new one began, one of integrity, strength, and hope. I was the president of the student body, the leader. Everyone knew my name, admired me, and I thrived in it. Back then, I thought it was the beginning of something bigger. But that was before everything fell apart, before Emma. My best friend decided that she wanted the power too. I took a deep breath before replying. "Something's not right. I don't know what it is, but I don't think she's finished."